Experience Marana's Western and agricultural heritage like you've never seen it before at the Marana Fall Festival. Enjoy live music, food trucks, carnival rides, and an immersive sunflower experience. You can even enroll your child in the Mutton Bustin' competition. We'll see you Saturday, October 21st from 2 to 9 p.m. at Marana Heritage River Park. Visit maranaaz.gov/events for more information.
Ready, set, hike. Kids ages 5 through 12 can now register for the Marana Flag Football winter season. Visit maranaaz.gov/recreation to sign up now. Uniforms and flags are included. Get in the game.
Welcome to Real Talk with the Town, where I sit down with the Marana staff to answer your burning questions about our beautiful community. My name is Terry Rosema, and I'm the town manager for the town, so let's get started.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Real Talk with the Town, where your host, Terry Rosema, is actually on the hot seat.
What?
That's right.
I don't know if I like that or not. So, listeners, today we're doing something a little bit different. We got Andrea De La Cruz. She's worked with the town now for coming up on 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Almost
2 years in February.
And she works in the town manager's office with me. She is the assistant to the town manager, does an amazing job for us. And actually, quite frankly, this podcast is happening because of Andrea De La Cruz. Was Andrea Caicedo when she came up with the idea, but now Andrea De La Cruz, and it was her brainchild. She was the one that came up with this idea. Her and Vic Hathaway have put this together and made it an award-winning podcast. And so, yes, Andrea, we're glad to have you for the very first time on the show. And she's going to be asking me questions today. So over the course of time, questions come in, and sometimes we get questions that maybe aren't enough for an entire episode. So today we're going to take some of those questions that have come in and do a whole series of those. And Andrea is going to be asking me the questions. But before we get into that, we got an icebreaker. And Andrea, I understand that you recently went on one of the town's moonlight hikes.
I did this past Saturday.
I'm curious to hear how that went. What do you thought of it?
It was a pretty amazing experience. I love hiking.
Pretty amazing. Did you hear that, listeners?
Yeah,
pretty amazing. Very
amazing. I love hiking, but I had never been out at night. So really seeing just what it's like at night. It was a little scary because I didn't want to see any rattlesnakes. But other than that, it was just beautiful. The moon was very bright. Our Parks and Rec team does an amazing job just guiding and pointing out any cool things that you typically don't notice. So highly, highly recommend for anyone that loves hiking for the next time we offer it. I think we offer it twice a year, so recommend it.
Very cool. Now, you didn't see any rattlesnakes, is that correct?
I didn't see any rattlesnakes,
Any
no.
other wildlife that you did see?
I saw javelinas.
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of baby javelinas.
Wow.
So that was really cute. And then I also saw a ringtail cat, I believe is what it's called.
A
It's not
ringtail cat.
I was told it's not a cat. It's kind of like a raccoon. But I guess it's very rare to see them. So people go on all their lives looking for a ringtail cat and they don't see it. And
you saw one on your very first
time.
moonlight hike.
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
Really, really cute little animal. I recommend just Googling it.
Yeah, very cool. So I am going to switch seats with you, not literally, but figuratively. And I'm going to throw this back to you for you to start asking me the questions that have come in from listeners that didn't quite rise to the level of occupying an entire episode. So,
That's right. All right, this is a lot of fun. I'm kind of like the host, right?
You are the host, yes.
Okay, before we get started, there's about 6 questions that we're going to go through.
All right.
First question is, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
Perfect. Okay, question number 1, and these are going to be rapid fire style.
Okay.
We'll start with the easier question, and we'll work our way up.
Okay.
First question is, are there any elected officials in Marana? What does a city management organization chart look like? And how is the manager or the city manager selected? So this came from
Okay.
one listener, and we can start with the first one,
All right.
which is any elected officials?
Yeah, we have elected officials here. We have a mayor and council, and the council is comprised of 6 council members plus the mayor, so a total of 7. All of them are in a cycle to be elected every 4 years, and it's kind of offset. I think there's 4 that get in one cycle and 3 in another is how it works. And so that's the elected officials portion of it. As far as the organization and how it's structured, how it's set up, it is a mayor, town manager form of government. Some communities have a very strong mayor form of government where the mayor actually kind of runs the town. In a town manager mayoral combination there, it's the mayor and council that have control over policy, and the town manager runs the day-to-day operations of the town. And we're structured so that we have a number of departments. We have our public works department, our police department, courts. Of course, we have community and neighborhood services, parks and rec. We have our water department. We have, of course, a finance department, our IT department, our town clerk, of course. Then we have economic development and development services, along with human resources and legal. And I hope I didn't leave anybody out there. I don't know how many that is. I think it's 12. But those are our departments. Each one of those is overseen by a department head. All of them report to the town manager's office, where we have myself as a town manager, a deputy town manager, Eric Montague, who's been on the show before, and of course, Andrea De La Cruz, who is also in the office, and Diane, who is our senior executive assistant. And well, yes, and our communications division is also a part of the manager's office as well, and that's Ms. Vic Hathaway and her crew.
Yeah, I think you got all 12 of them. Just
Okay.
in case I missed hearing, did you say community and neighborhood services?
I did say community
Okay,
and
perfect.
neighborhood services right before Parks and Rec. So I kind of go around the building floor by floor as I run through them in my head, but hopefully I didn't miss anybody. So that's kind of the structure of the organization. And what was the last part of the question? How
You
was-
pretty much, how is the city manager selected?
Oh, yes, a great question. Yeah, that is at the will of the council. The council decides who the town manager is, and the town manager is appointed under a contract that they serve for either 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever the council determines and desires. An at-will employee, they can get rid of him or her at any point in time. So, yeah, that's kind of how that works. And I got a call like at 8 o'clock at night one night saying, "Hey, you interested in being the town manager?" So you never know how it's going to unfold, I guess.
I guess for our listeners that are familiar with private companies, this is pretty similar to your board and CEO type of structure, except it's a mayor, council, and then your city manager, right?
That's an excellent analogy, one that I'm sure most people can relate to. Yep, absolutely.
Perfect. Well, thanks for that answer. Moving on to the next question, Terry. And this next question, I think we get pretty often. So you've talked about the Amazon facility on Ina Road.
Ad nauseum.
Right. So some of our listeners have heard that Amazon pulled out and they're not coming. Is that true?
Wrong. Yeah, not true. Amazon is coming. In fact, they recently submitted a couple of permits that are going through the process right now to begin some of the work that needs to be done in order for them to open, I think, like 134 charging stations for their fleet. They're all going to be, all of their fleet vans are going to be electric. Some work that they're going to be doing on the interior. Don't know exactly when they're going to have all that ready and move in, but I think we're getting close, probably within the next several months before that happens.
All right. So Amazon is coming.
Amazon is coming. Yeah, like it or not, it's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah.
All right. Next question, and we're going through these pretty quickly. I actually really like this question. Will we get another Costco somewhere in Marana, maybe in the Gladden Farms area, or just a big retailer like Best Buy, Target, Walmart, or even IKEA?
A good question. And the answer to that is I don't know. I doubt we're going to get an IKEA. We just got a very large furniture store down at Twin Peaks in I-10 and they're not open yet, but we'll be here probably by the first quarter of 2024, and that's the American Furniture Warehouse. Is that right? American Furniture Warehouse? American Furniture Warehouse, probably about the size of an IKEA, 200,000 square feet, so it's a pretty big place. As far as a Costco or something like that, nothing has come to us yet at this point. Certainly would be wonderful, but that's all dependent on the corporate organizations deciding to plant their flag in another place within our community.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Can you please speak to...
I kind of feel like I'm in an oral board here. Next question.
Next question.
How am I doing on a scale of 1 to 10? I mean,
you are doing amazing.
Really?
Yeah, 10.
Oh, a 10. Well, our listeners will weigh in on that one. But okay, next question.
Next question. Please speak to the issue of why so many apartment and rental homes are going up in Marana.
Boy, I think that's a great question. We've kind of covered that in other episodes about some of the apartment complexes here, but I think there's a couple of reasons. Number one, first of all, Marana was woefully underserved, and I wish I had the statistics from Jason about the, I want to say it's 70-30 you look for in a municipality in terms of owner-occupied versus rental. And the rentals are, of course, for people who maybe A, don't want to own a home, and then B, perhaps can't afford a home. And we were woefully underserved. I believe we only had 4 apartment complexes in 127 square miles of our community before this latest surge in apartment complex. And so you're seeing a lot of them going up right now. And basically, I would say that they're playing catch up. And so that's one side of it. I think the other side of that coin is because we're not only getting apartment complexes, which are rental, but we're getting entire communities, houses that are being built that are all completely rental homes. And I think a lot of that is happening because of the way the economy is and the expense of houses and so many people, young people, not being able to afford the necessary down payment or the mortgage payment because of where interest rates are at. So I think those things are kind of coming together in our community in such a way that we're seeing a lot of these rental communities and or apartment complexes. And my guess is we're probably going to continue to see that for a little bit yet until it kind of balances out.
Definitely. And this is something that's not just happening in Marana, but I mean, the state of Arizona is getting a lot of growth, a lot of people moving to the state. So not the only ones. I know that in the Phoenix metro area, that's also happening. And we are a pretty fast growing community. So
great point, Andrea. The apartment complex business is booming all over the state, and really, quite frankly, over a good part of the nation. And these, so one of the builders that's building in Marana right now is American Homes for Rent, and man, they have quite the setup, and they are building communities all across the state of Arizona and all across the United States. So it's a trend. Without question.
Enjoy free live music at Marana's Concerts in the Courtyard, located in the beautiful Marana Municipal Complex, scheduled on third Thursday nights in the fall and spring. With theme nights, food trucks, and attractions, this concert series is truly a family-friendly experience. Visit MaranaAZ.gov/events for the complete schedule.
People lose their valuables every day simply because they forget to lock their car doors. Don't be another statistic. Remove all your belongings anytime you leave your car, including valuables and weapons. This is a message from the Marana Police Department, reminding all residents to lock it or lose it.
Whether you're starting a business or looking to expand in Marana, our Town Development Services staff will walk you through the steps towards success. Learn about business licenses, development permits, business loans, local and state resources, and more. Let's get to work. For more information, visit maranaaz.gov/business development.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question, Terry. And this one, I'm going to read it verbatim, the way that the listener submitted this question. So it's a little long. Why hasn't Dove Mountain Road not been completed to connect to Tangerine? The town plan to evacuate is not acceptable and is dangerous. In most buildings, there is a clear exit and a clear entrance for safety purposes. The Dove Mountain plan is not safe and does not pass the safety test. Completing Dove Mountain is the answer regardless of cost. Safety is always first.
Okay. Well, I would probably disagree with this listener on a couple of points. So I don't know what safety test this person is referring to, but all of these things are evaluated from a road safety standpoint, from our Public Works Department, from our Police Department, and from our Fire Department, which in this area is Northwest Fire. So certainly the ingress and egress for Dove Mountain, you have one major entrance and exit off of Tangerine. You do have an additional way out through Moore Road going out to the east, and the roads are set up so that you can do evacuations if one part of the road has to be closed off to open up the other side and make it all one-way traffic going out of Dove Mountain. So there are plans, and I certainly can't convey the diagrams that demonstrate that on radio, but all of those plans have been thought out, and I do believe that it is a good plan. Now, as far as another exit out of Dove Mountain, at some point that will happen. I do not believe, however, that it's going to be at the end of Dove Mountain, so Dove Mountain going all the way through where it dead ends and then continuing for another exit. And also, I do not believe that it will exit back and come down to Tangerine. At this point, going out of Dove Mountain and coming back to Tangerine, number one, very expensive, goes through, have to go through the preserve, essentially, which would be pretty detrimental. Wouldn't want that. So the one that makes probably the most sense is Moore Road, going to the west and connecting into I-10. So that will probably at some point be the additional ingress, egress to Dove Mountain. And but that's probably not anytime real soon. So for a couple of reasons. One, it is very expensive. You have a number of 404 washes there, which are federal washes that have to be traversed. It's all state land in that area. So there's a number of hurdles that you have to get over. And in terms of priority, there are just many other roadway projects, interchange projects that have to be completed before something like that could be considered. So it is in the 2040 general plan, but it's not something that is probably in the next 10 years. So I hope that answers their question. If they do want to let us know what that safety test is that they think we failed, I'd be happy to take a look at that. But in my opinion, somebody who worked 35 years in the law enforcement public safety arena, I would say it is very safe, and there is a good plan to get people out of there if there were an emergency of some sort.
It's a great answer because there's definitely a lot of factors to consider, right?
Yes, and a lot of thought goes into those things, and I know that people don't get to be a part of those conversations. They don't get to be a part of the planning, but there is a whole lot of thought that goes into those things, and I realize it's difficult to just trust that, but I can tell you, in being a part of some of those things, there is a great deal of planning that goes into them, and I feel very confident in the police departments, the fire department, and our public works folks being able to execute the plan.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, so we're moving on to the last question.
These are kind of hard questions, though.
Hard-hitting questions.
Yes,
That's what we
I
get.
guess so. Yeah.
For this next question, again, I'll read it verbatim the way that it was submitted by our listener. So why doesn't Marana utilize red light and photo enforcement to combat the excessive speeds and or red light runners? Having lived in the East Coast all of my life until I moved to Marana in 2019, I can state that these cameras definitely work. This is the worst area for red light runners and aggressive and excessive speed drivers. The cameras force drivers to slow down in school zones and help eliminate running the red lights. When you get a few of the expensive traffic citations in the mail, people tend to modify their driving behavior. In addition, the cameras help alleviate the need for physical policemen to be sitting in one spot versus tackling other crimes in the area. So what do you have to say to this?
Well, this listener obviously has some experience in another jurisdiction with this, and it sounds like this particular listener is very much in favor of them. I can tell you, though, that we have had red light cameras and speed cameras in Pima County, not in Marana. Marana has never had them. But the city of Tucson, I was there for 24 years in the law enforcement arena, and we did have them there. And I think the listener is probably correct when it comes to red light running. It can definitely be helpful. I don't think it's all that helpful when it comes to speeding, though, on thoroughfares, because once people know where the cameras are, they slow down as they approach the camera, and then when they get past it, they speed up again. And you can see that certainly if you drove the freeways in Phoenix where they had them. That being said, I think the reason the town of Marana doesn't have them is because it is a divisive issue. There's very strong feelings against them, regardless of what potential benefit may come from them. I think there's a number of questions and concerns about identifying drivers and things of that nature, and you can get false positives. So it's not a situation where you have an officer pulling somebody over, having a contact and a conversation, and making a decision based on the totality of the circumstances. And that's really the way it should be, because speed is a difficult thing sometimes. And I say that because the ARS statute that governs speed, ARS 28701, doesn't say you shall not exceed the posted speed limit by even 1 mile an hour. That's not what it says. It says all drivers shall drive at a speed that is reasonable and prudent on any Arizona roadway or highway. Okay, so reasonable and prudent is up for debate, right? And prima facie evidence of whether or not it's reasonable or prudent is the speed limit sign. So if you happen to be going 52 miles an hour in a 45 mile an hour zone, you may be speeding or you may not be speeding, depending on what's reasonable and prudent, right? So prima facie evidence says you are speeding, and certainly an officer could pull you over. But if you had a massive leg wound where you were bleeding from the leg and were trying to get to a hospital and you were going 7 miles an hour over the speed limit, that's not really all that unreasonable or imprudent. So having somebody that actually makes contact with a driver to find out, what's going on, why are they speeding? Education is a huge element of enforcement, and you don't get that with cameras, right? Mm-hmm. It's very clinical, and you just don't have those one-on-one interactions. So I'm not a huge fan of them. I do see why this listener likes them, especially for red light running. I don't believe that it's something that this community is going to adopt anytime soon. It was actually outlawed, I guess outlawed. It's not legal in the state of Arizona to have them on any highways. There was legislation that passed. Some jurisdictions have passed that. City of Tucson had a measure that passed that said you can't have any red light cameras or speed cameras anywhere. So it is a pretty divisive thing. in the sense that some people are really in favor of it, some people absolutely hate it. I think it's too big brotherish, that kind of thing. So the town of Marana has chosen not to utilize them and to utilize enforcement through our police officers.
Yeah, based on that response, you definitely sound like you have 24 years of experience in law enforcement. Just to add a little to that, though, this past legislative session, there was another bill wanting to ban this, but it was vetoed by Governor Hobbs. So it's probably going to come back again.
Got through the House, got through the Senate, vetoed by the governor. And because there are still a handful, I think maybe 4 or 5 jurisdictions. Paradise Valley comes to mind, Scottsdale.
I believe Chandler.
Chandler, okay. Yeah, there's a couple of others, maybe Buckeye or Goodyear, one of those up there that have them. But the vast majority of municipalities don't use them anymore. They get a lot of very negative blowback from their residents on it. So,
Right. Well, great response. And that was the last question. So we're all done. You made it, Terry.
what? Wow. Okay. Well, listeners, I was on the hot seat today, and I don't know how I did. I get to ask everybody else the questions when they come in here, but, hopefully I did all right for you guys. And I think we'll continue to do this. We want to make sure that we're answering all your questions. And although some of them may not rise to the level of, a 20, 30-minute episode, I think if we do something like this, we're being responsive to all your questions and concerns, and that's ultimately why we started the show. So hope you enjoyed listening today. Andrea, greatly appreciate you joining and asking me the difficult questions. Anything you want to add before we close out?
No, nothing to add. It was a pleasure and delighted to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you, listeners, again for joining us. Until next time. Submit your questions by visiting maranaaz.gov/realtalk and we'll answer them right here. To receive notifications for new releases, remember to click subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Also, please follow the town on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay up to date on current news and events.